My husband and kids abandoned me after catching me cheating. Well, what did you expect them to do? Now let's get into this story, and you can see this dates back to May 4th of 2021. This woman starts out and she says, "Please reserve judgment on my situation until you listen to my entire post. I know what I've done is wrong and is 100% my fault. I'm not placing blame on anyone else. I'm just trying to see if there's a way I can save my 19-year marriage or if my relationship with my husband is beyond repair. I'm a 38 female. Call me Francine and my husband. Call him. Ray is 44. We got married when I was 19. A month after I gave birth to our daughter. Call her Libby. Libby is now 19 years old. Nearly 1 year to the day later, I gave birth to our son. Call him Craig. Both kids now attend the same college, 5 hours from us. Though we married, young, broke, and had a child. Ray and I managed just fine. We had a great life from the start. Ray has a good job now and has always been a great provider, husband and father, even in those early days. I also now work 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have plenty of money, own our own home, and have a decent savings. Our family was rock solid, and my husband, kids, and I were an unbreakable team until I fell under the deception of a very dark person. See how she's already painting her app as being this dark and deceptive person? It all started innocently enough. We have a dog, and she's part of the family too. As mentioned before, I work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so I'm home on Tuesday and Thursday. I take our dog to the dog park on those days, on the days when I work. Ray comes home on his lunch break and walks our dog, and we both walk her on the weekends. One Tuesday at the park. About 3 months ago, I met a man there. I'll call him Leonard, age 37. Now enter the stage, Leonard. And you know who Leonard's going to be? His dog. And our dog became playmates. Leonard mentioned that he had seen me there several times with my dog, but I didn't remember seeing him. Out of coincidence, we started running into each other at the park every time I went there. Was it really a coincidence, or were you going there when you knew he would be there? I believe the latter. With each interaction, we talked more and became casual friends. Nothing inappropriate, just shooting the breeze with a fellow dog lover. In fact, at dinner one night, I told my husband about my interaction with this man named Leonard from the dog park and asked if he'd ever seen him there. My husband said no, and I told him that Leonard's dog and our dog are now besties. My husband laughed, and nothing more was said about the subject. Time went on, and then things began to change between Leonard and I. About 2 months ago, one day at the dog park, Leonard and I were talking, and he mentioned that he lived in the luxury apartment complex nearby. The complex is about a quarter mile from the dog park, and about a half-mile walk from my house. I told him the apartments looked so nice on the outside, and asked him what were they like on the inside. I told him a friend of mine was interested in possibly renting there, which was true at the time. Leonard asked me to walk over to his apartment with my dog and have a quick look and take pictures for my friend. I knew I should have politely refused, but I said okay. Of course you did. Once I stepped through the door of his apartment, I knew I had crossed a line of inappropriateness. Leonard showed me around and I stayed for maybe 10 minutes, thanked him, and then said I needed to get home. With that, he asked if he'd see me next Tuesday at the park. I said yes and left. This was the point where I started cheating on Ray, as when I went home that night. I didn't tell him about my visit to Leonard's apartment. Instead, I was even more attentive to my husband. Fixed him a great dinner and cuddled with him on the couch until we retired to our bedroom. We had a great night, and I put that there is a red flag for this husband because all of a sudden now she's giving you more attention and more love in there. On one of these evenings during the week, and you gotta kinda think to yourself, okay, why out of the blue is she doing this? Could this be love bombing for something she's done and she's making up for? Yes, that is what the situation is. So you always have to keep your eyes open to that, guys. The following Tuesday, I met Leonard once again at the park, and we talked for nearly 2 hours. At the end of our conversation, I told him we need to back off our friendship, as we have gone beyond what is appropriate. He said he knew this, but told me it felt so right, and that we had unbelievable chemistry. Here again, I could have pulled back and ended things, but instead I agreed with him. Things moved quickly from there, and the following Tuesday, I spent the afternoon with Leonard at his apartment, having intimacy. See how quickly it happens, guys? Surprisingly, early that evening, I felt a little guilt or remorse for what I'd just done. Instead, I felt a high level of desire and passion for my husband. And we had a beautiful night together. That's what I say to that. That is just so sick. She just was with this lover of hers and, he wasn't wearing protection, I guarantee it. 99% of the time, these women do not require their lover to wear protection. So that is just sick. It's gross. It's disgusting. And I have nothing more to say about that. And that's also a red flag, because again, here she is giving you all this attention and all this love. And out of the blue, as a man, you got to sit back and ask yourself, why out of the blue is she doing this, writing this out? Now I'm just disgusted with myself, as you should be, but I must be truthful. Leonard and I continued meeting at his place every Tuesday and Thursday until midday this past Friday, nearly 2 months to the day when I started the physical relationship with Leonard. So she was having a physical relationship with this Leonard twice a week for 2 months, let's say at least 15, 16, 17 times. She was with this guy. And with a new relationship like that, they're doing everything possible in that bedroom. I should have realized something was not right with my husband as 2 weeks ago. I noticed an abrupt change in his behavior, but I was too caught up in the fog of the affair to notice or even care. I guess it was then my husband started giving me short answers and not engaging with me. He also rejected my requests for intimacy several times and didn't initiate intimacy at all during this time. He also started working late, not coming home until after 8 o'clock. He'd say he and his coworkers were working on a big presentation and they were all eating takeout at the office. These big projects happened on rare occasions, but not for 2 weeks straight. When I pressed him, he just said it was a top secret project and that it would finish up on Friday. I bought his story and felt relieved that I would soon be getting my loving husband back. He promised to make up the lost time with me and promised we'd have an emotion-filled weekend. Well, let's just say the emotion was not what I expected. When I got home on Friday, there was a large manila envelope taped to the door with my name on it. When I got inside, I opened the envelope and nearly passed out. There were pages and pages of messages between Leonard and I on the fake name F-book accounts we had created to manage our affair communications. So you see how devious these cheaters are. They created fake Facebook accounts for the sole purpose of being able to message secretly with each other. Again, as I said on other videos, these affairs typically are not just spur-of-the-moment things. They're well thought out and calculated with a lot of planning that goes into them. So don't ever buy the excuse that it was a big mistake I made. No, it was a rational, iced, well thought out decision that you made, not a mistake. As I looked through the messages, I started crying and couldn't catch my breath. It was so bad I contemplated calling 911. Oh, what an actress. I threw the envelope to the floor and started running around the house, unsure who put the envelope on my door. Was it Leonard, my lover? Was it my husband, Ray? Or was it someone else? My question was answered when I went into the bedroom there. In the middle of the bed was a white gift box with a big red bow and a card tag on it with my name on the 2 line and my husband's name on the front line. I nervously took the bow off the package and opened the box to find divorce papers. All my man really slammed her there with the divorce papers saying this. I knew my world had imploded and I just laid on the bed and cried uncontrollably into a pillow. After an hour or so of thinking what to do and what I was going to say to my husband, I called him and he didn't answer. I kept calling, but he didn't pick up. I then texted him, and again, nothing. I started pacing around the house thinking what I was going to do. I then called and texted my daughter and son multiple times and they didn't answer, which was strange. A few minutes later, I got a text from my husband saying he knew everything, and so does our children and the rest of his family. And as of 15 minutes ago, so did my parents. He wrote that he has moved out and signed a lease on an apartment, and that I would next be hearing from his attorney. He ended the text stating, "Enjoy your new life with Leonard." My man zinged her there, and you see what he was doing for those weeks where he was giving her the cold shoulder. He was actually meeting with his attorney, getting everything ready. He was also going out looking for apartments, apparently, and leased an apartment. This guy was done once he found out his wife was cheating. He basically washed his hands of her after reading this. I cried for hours, only stopping to answer a call from my mother. Instead of comforting me, she tore into me, not letting me speak a word, and then hung up on me. I kept calling her back, but she didn't pick up. I called my dad and he answered. I asked to talk to Mom, and he said she didn't have anything further to say to me now. My father then told me he was so disappointed and ashamed of me, saying he never dreamed his daughter could do such a thing. This broke me and I started crying, telling him I was sorry. He was silent as I blabbed on and on. After I finished, he told me to get myself together and do better. I told him, "Okay, Daddy, I will." And we ended the call. At this point, I was too embarrassed to confide in my friends or another family member, so I just sat alone, crying in my bedroom. I thought I'd better call Leonard, that's her lover, to advise him that our relationship was over, and for a comforting shoulder to cry on. When I called him, he first asked why I was calling from my phone and not using our fake F-book accounts. I came right out and told him my husband knew about us, and he's divorcing me. The only thing Leonard said was, "Oh no, he knows how." I told him I didn't know. Leonard asked, "Did he find your Facebook account?" I said he must have. Leonard then said, "Did you sign out? What happened?" I told him I didn't know. He then asked if my husband knew who he was. I told him yes, as he mentioned you by name in the text I received. Leonard said zero shit and then just started screaming the F word loudly over and over to the point where his dog started barking. He then said, "Okay, look, I'm sorry this happened, but you were sloppy. Let's cut all contact and delete our accounts and phone numbers. Hopefully you can save your marriage. Don't call me again." I was both surprised and sickened by his cowardice and just said, "Okay." And we ended the call. Just like that. There was no, "I'm sorry for destroying your marriage, Francine." No. "What can I do for you, Francine?" No, thank you. Just self-preservation talk from a shallow man. How could I have been so stupid to cheat on Ray with anyone, let alone a disgusting shell of a man like Leonard? I'm posting this at 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning, if that tells you something. I've taken the week off to focus on getting my husband and kids to talk to me so I can apologize and we can heal and move forward. Does anyone have any suggestions for what to do next? My soul is crushed, and I'm completely alone. I've lost everything but my dog as a result of my actions. Have any of you who strayed been cut off so quickly by your spouses? I mean, Ray is gone and wants nothing to do with me. I understand how bad he feels, but to just cut me out of his life and file for divorce over one stupid mistake seems so extreme. Please help. Francine. So you see two things she's doing here, guys. She's minimizing what she did, she's calling it one stupid mistake, and she's placing all the blame on this lover of hers, Leonard, calling him all kinds of names and saying he's a shallow shell of a man type of thing. She's not taking responsibility at all, and she's trying to minimize it. Let's look at a few responses that she got from the community. But before we do that, I want to encourage you, if you're like in what you hear, hit that like button that will help get this video seen by people all over the world. Now let's take a look at some of those responses. The first one's from a woman. She says, "Francine, don't beat yourself up. Too bad. What you did is instinctive. Not saying it's right, but natural." So she's saying cheating and having multiple men is natural. I, too, am working through infidelity, and thankfully, my husband is more understanding than Ray. He's been with me through all the highs and lows. Mr. Simp. Mr. Simp, she's got a simp for a husband. I've been in individual counseling, and he and I go to marriage counseling twice a week. I've been a wreck, but my hubby is my rock. Good luck, girl. The second one here is from a male. He says, "Wow, your husband just moved out and is avoiding you without even speaking. Was your marriage on the rocks prior? Have you cheated before? And therefore you knew your fate if you cheated again? Even so, if you were my wife, I'd at least have a discussion to get your side of the story before doing something so final. I think there's more to your story than you are sharing." That's what I thought when I first read this story. I'm thinking she's not telling us the whole story. I'd really like to talk with her husband to find out his side of the story here and what their marriage was really like before he found out she cheated. Because I think there's more to this story. The next response is from a woman. She says, "So sad for you, Francine. Don't wear your infidelity as a scarlet letter." Here's another one of these stories where they're referring to having affairs as a scarlet letter. And that's not something you should have to wear for the rest of your life. Well, as we always say, once a cheater, always a cheater. She says, "There's nothing wrong with you. You are only human like the rest of us." Now listen to what she says next. "I cheated on my husband back in 1995. We separated for 6 months and then he came back to me. And we lived a happy life until I lost him last year. I still regret what I did, but I more than made it up to him." Did you really? I'd like to talk to your husband if he was still alive and find out what was he really feeling when he came back to you. I'm sure he wasn't completely happy as you're describing it. She says you can too. Basically saying you can make it up to your husband to stay strong. And now the final response here is from a man. He says, "Women like you are trash and don't understand how deeply you've wounded your husband. It's a pain that's never forgotten and one that will impact his life for years to come. My first wife cheated on me after 5 years and 2 kids. I immediately divorced her, got myself together, and 8 years later I'm remarried to a great woman. While my ex's life is a disaster, I wish your husband well, so he's not wishing her well. He's wishing her husband Ray well. Now she's got a series of updates, and we're going to find out how this thing all turns out. The first update is just from 3 days later. She says, "I'm back on here because I need an outlet to deal with the pain I'm feeling now. I just got off a call with my kids as they were driving back to town. I finally thought after 3 days of ignoring my calls and texts, they were calling to talk to me and to let me apologize. Instead, I got berated, disrespected, and called terrible names. Words I've never heard either of my kids say. Libby was exceptionally cruel, and I think that influenced her brother. I apologized to them and said what I did was terrible, and 100% my fault. I reminded them what a great mother I had been to them and what a good wife I had been to their father until now. My daughter told me that I was great, but now I was terrible. The worst. She ended the call by saying that she and her brother would be staying with their dad this weekend and that I should not expect to see them at all. This saddened me beyond belief, as Sunday is Mother's Day, and my kids and my husband always made the day so special for me. This year I'm going to be all alone with my dog. I know a lot of what Libby and Craig are feeling is just the initial anger one feels after being betrayed. But I feel so awful about their reaction. I'm not looking for any pity here. I beg to differ with you. You are looking for pity, just some encouragement. Thanks to those who have sent messages of support, it really has helped me get through so far. I will update again as I'm able. Francine. Now she's got another update, and this is 3 weeks later. Okay? So 3 weeks later, she comes back and she says, I wanted to come back and provide an update as I've gotten many requests to do so. I've been going to individual counseling for 2 weeks now, and it has helped a lot. My counselor is a great woman, and she has really given me courage to keep moving forward. She told me that I've done everything I can at this point to mend the relationship with my family. Now listen to what she says next. You talk about selfish. The best thing for me to do now is just step back and wait. If they return, then we always had and will have love. If they don't return, then they never really love me again. Here's another situation of a counselor victim blaming, putting all the onus here on the victims. The victims being the husband and the children and letting the cheater off the hook, saying, oh, they should forgive you and take you back. If they don't, then they never really loved you. That is total BS, as you all know. She also suggested transcendental meditation, and I started going last week, and it has made me so much more at peace with myself and given me a sense of calm. I feel more in control of my mind now than ever before. So she's going and she's chanting and doing all these kind of things with that meditation. So that's where things are in my world at this moment. I'll update again if warranted, hoping in my next update, I'll be able to report that my husband and kids have welcomed me back, and we are again one happy family, Francine. And now she's got another update 4 months later. Well, it's been a while, but I'm back with an update. Sit back and take a deep breath, as I've got a lot to say here with some good news and some bad. A couple weeks after my last update, I discovered I was pregnant. Yes. At the age of 38, I became pregnant after trying for more than 15 years to have a third child. This news came as a shock, and my mind instantly filled with joy and terror. Joy in that I wanted so much for the baby to be Race, and terror in the thought it could be Leonard's. I went into full panic mode. The first person I wanted to tell was Ray, but I knew if I did and the baby wasn't his, I would lose him forever. Also, if the baby was Leonard's, I wouldn't want to keep it. If I ended the pregnancy and Ray ever found out, he would never forgive me as he is against procedures. Good for Ray, he's a good man. So here's what I did. I called a DNA clinic and asked if they could do a prenatal DNA test without having the saliva of the father. The lab said it is possible, however. It is only possible with select other body samples. But of course, I didn't have them. The one potential was hair follicles. I found a few on my husband's brush, but not nearly enough for a full sample, so I hit a dead end there. My backup plan was to contact Leonard and have him participate and pay for a prenatal DNA test. He had me blocked, and he deleted his Fbook account. So I decided to go to his place of business and catch him while he was walking in. When he saw me, he first tried ignoring me and then asked what I was doing there in a disgusted manner. I told him, I have something important to say and we need to talk. He said he didn't want to talk to me anymore and that he was sorry for breaking up my marriage. I said to myself, yeah, right. Why didn't you think about that before you relentlessly pursued me? You see how she's placing all the blame on her app and not accepting the responsibility fully? Like she said, I then blurted out, I'm pregnant and you are the father. He then started saying, oh no, woman, you are not going to baby trap me. I know this game too well. So this Leonard, her app, is a player, as you can tell. I told him to listen to me closely. I said, if you don't want me to walk into this office and go right to your HR department and tell them what you were doing when you should have been on the job, then you better do what I say. I then told him I wanted him to schedule and pay for a paternity test and gave him the number for the clinic. I told him if he didn't do this within 48 hours, I would go to his HR. So she gave him an ultimatum here. That evening, Leonard unblocked my phone and sent me a text saying he made an appointment for next Tuesday at 10 a.m. as he knew I was off on Tuesday. We met at the clinic office and didn't speak. They called Leonard in first and took his saliva sample, and then I went in and they drew blood. It took a week to get the results back, but it was well worth the wait, as Leonard was not the father. I fell to my knees in sheer joy and gave thanks to our Lord for blessing me and my husband with another precious child for which we've wanted for so long. I couldn't wait to speak to Ray, but I had no way to reach him as he had me blocked. and I still didn't know where he was living. And at this point, my kids were still avoiding me and barely speaking to me. I texted him, my daughter and son, and told them that I had something very important to tell them and asked if they could set up a three-way call. My daughter kept texting me, asking for what, and I just told her I would tell them on the call. We set up the call and I told them the good news. Instead of being happy to be getting a sibling, they were both terse and downright mean to me. They immediately assumed the baby was Leonard's. I told them, I know it's your father's baby. My son then asked, how can I be so sure? And I told him that based on the estimated conception date, I knew. At this point, I didn't know the actual conception date, but I didn't want to tell them about the DNA test with Leonard, so I thought it best to explain it to them this way. So again, she's being deceptive here. My daughter then accused me of trapping her father into staying with me by getting pregnant. I asked her, how could that be? As this all happened before your father knew of my relationship with Leonard, my daughter said that was her point. She accused me of purposely getting pregnant by her dad in case he found out about my affair. She said the baby was my way of trapping her dad. I told her that was ridiculous, and she knew that her father and I had been trying for years to get pregnant. Finally, after much discussion, they agreed to speak with their father and have him call me. I was so anxious waiting for Ray to call that night, but he never did. The next morning came and still nothing. Then, and a little after 1 p.m. the next day, I got a call from Ray's attorney. She left me a message and I called her right back. She explained that she was calling on behalf of her client, and they were informed that I was pregnant and was claiming the baby was her client's. Hearing this, I just broke down and started sobbing, pleading with her that I wanted to speak directly with my husband. The attorney was considerate and understanding, but resolute. After I settled down, the attorney told me that my husband is requesting a paternity test for confirmation. I readily agreed and offered to do it as soon as possible, and that I would pay for it from my savings. The attorney asked that I set up the appointment and that her client will provide his saliva sample at a time when I'm not present. I agreed, but cried all night over the fact that Ray thought I would lie to him about something so special. And I couldn't believe Ray wouldn't want to go to the appointment with me. So why would this Ray believe you're a liar? Could it be that you were cheating on him for 60 days before he busted you? I think that might be the reason he doesn't trust you. The test was performed, and earlier this morning, the results came back proving Ray is the father. Of course, I already knew this, but getting the official results felt so good and was a major relief off my mind. I'm now looking to put this terrible nightmare I created behind us, and I look forward to rebuilding my relationship and trust with my family. Thanks so much for all the encouragement you've provided to help me through this difficult time. Take care, everybody. Francine. So she's feeling pretty good about herself now because she's pregnant with her husband's child. That means he's going to be tied to her probably for another 20-25 years. So she's doing cartwheels about this. And now for the final update so we can see how things turned out for this family. And the final update is from May 18th of 2022. So a full 8 months later, after getting so many requests, I thought I'd come back and update everyone on how things turned out for my family and I. We are still a work in progress, of course, but every day we get closer and closer to the family we once were, before I foolishly destroyed everything through my selfishness and stupidity. First off, Ray and I did divorce, so Ray moved forward and divorced her even though she was pregnant with his child. Despite all of my pleading and begging, and even with it 100% confirmed that I was carrying his child, he proceeded with the divorce. I remember being so hopeful after the DNA tests revealed he was the father, and looked so forward to speaking with him and having him once again hold me in his arms and tell me everything would be okay. But he never did. Instead, I met with him at his attorney's office in a meeting that was videotaped. In this meeting is where he told me he was proceeding with the divorce and said he wanted to transition to a good co-parenting relationship with me. I broke down and cried and asked to be excused to regain my composure. When I came back, we talked about custody and his desire to split custody time with me. I told him I wanted him to have 100% custody with me and again burst out crying. In the end, our divorce was final. We split assets and custody of our little guy, $5,050. I received 1 year of alimony and ongoing child support. Ray also agreed to pay half the taxes, insurance, and utilities on our family home for 2 years in order for the baby to be in a safe, secure environment. So they split the assets $5,050. But it looks like they're holding on to the house for a couple of years before they sell it so they can give the baby a stable environment, a family environment before having to uproot. That's what I'm guessing just by reading this. In late January, our little guy was born, and he is truly a miracle child. Not only because he blessed us after 15 years of trying, but he also has brought our family back together. My relationship with my daughter Libby and my son Craig is back to normal, and they are doting siblings to their little brother. Libby even came into the delivery room to be with me while I gave birth. Since the birth, both my kids have been coming home from college every weekend and take turns holding the baby. My husband Ray has also been at my house every night since the birth. He comes over straight from work and stays with me until I put the baby down for the night. Yesterday, he brought a takeout dinner for the two of us. Each of us ate while the other held the baby, and I gave this a big thumbs down. What I see happening here is that she's slowly just reeling him back in. You know, he's got this, I'm sure, precious little baby. He wants to spend all the time with the baby, and eventually what's going to happen? This is my prediction. He's going to be with her night after night after night, and then slowly they're going to get closer. Like now, he's buying her dinner. And then the next thing you're going to know, they're going to be hugging and then kissing goodnight. And then he's going to be spending the night, and then he's going to be back with her. The thing I would tell him, use extreme caution. And number 2, don't get remarried. While we didn't eat together, she says, I see this as a very positive development. See what I mean? He and I are on very friendly terms and have not mentioned the affair or the divorce. I also have never pushed him or spoken about the two of us getting back together. I'm still in IC individual counseling, and my counselor told me to give him space and not talk about our relationship, which I have. And it seems to be working. Every day that goes by, I'm getting my loving husband back, little by little. See what I'm saying? She knows she's just slowly reeling him in like a fish on a fish line. I've done the same with Libby and Craig. If I do get Ray back as a husband or even a life partner, you can be sure I will never do anything to jeopardize our relationship. He and my kids are my world, and I will do everything to show them how much I value and cherish them. That's all I have for now. Yes, I'd like things to go back to the way they were, but that's not possible. So I'm just appreciating what I have now, which is pretty damn good if you ask me. This will likely be my last post unless Ray and I officially reunite. If that happens, I'll be back to give everyone the good news. Thanks again to everyone who supported me through this. Francine. So that's her story. Now, I wanted to cover the moral of this story, and there are multiple points I wanted to highlight. Number 1, and I said this up front, love bombing is a big red flag indicating your significant other may be trying to make up for something awful they've done. So remember that if out of the blue now this woman starts giving you treatment that you never experienced before or haven't experienced in a long time, you've got to ask yourself, I wonder why she's doing that now. What has she done next? Many cheaters never fully take responsibility for their actions, often placing the blame on their affair partner. And you can see that's what this woman did. Even though she said up front, hey, I'm 100% responsible throughout this whole story. She's saying how terrible her affair partner was and that he, lured her into this relationship almost like, oh, I had nothing to do with it. I just was a poor, innocent victim here. No, you were equally, if not more responsible because you were the one married to your husband. The next point, a cheater's relationship with family and friends will never be the same after they've cheated. So it's not just their relationship with their spouse or with their boyfriend is never going to be the same. But their friends and family members are going to look at them different. How many women like friends of hers, and maybe even women in the family now, who are married or have boyfriends are saying, hey, I don't want my boyfriend or husband around this woman. She may try to do the same thing with my husband or with my boyfriend, So everybody's looking at her differently, and they will look at her that way for the rest of her life. And then finally, it's best to divorce and provide your kids with 2 happy homes versus staying together in a miserable one. So those are my thoughts on this story. Now I want to hear from you. What did you think of this story, and how do you think this Ray handled the situation? Do you think his wife is slowly reeling him back in? Do you think he's going to remarry her, or maybe he will get back into a relationship with her? Let us know in the comments.